All right, let's see exactly what we have with the default scaffolding. So in the prior video, we ran Flask new myproject, and we saw Flask new myproject. We CD'd into that project, and then we just listed out the files. It's a little hard for me personally to see things as far as in the terminal. I use a code editor. I personally use VS Code right now, so I will type in code dot. I'll show you how to get code dot to work on your computer if you haven't done this. What this will do is it should pull up VS Code with the folder that you're currently in your terminal as your working folder structure. So here we go. So yes, I trust the author. It was me. So let's see here. So over here on the left panel, I have a list of my folders that the Flask new made, and then a list of all the files. So Flask new made all these files. We can, it's may be a little overwhelming at first, but as you get into it, you will see it's actually not that many files. But that is one of the biggest hurdles for me with the Flask framework, is that I had to start with a folder and create my first file. Typically, my first file was this run.py. It's the entry point, and this goes and builds out your Flask application, your Flask instance. It does it through this function here, create app, and that is pulling from here, from app, import create app. So from app, there is an int, and create app is defined here. And so this is where you typically start with Flask application. You create an instance of a Flask, and then you're able to start running that. So let's go back to the docs though. Let me just come back here. Let's go through what you get here. So you have a Python virtual environment here. So we'll go back to VS Code, and I will show you your Python virtual environment. It created one for you. I called it venv instead of .venv, but here it is. You can see it. It should be on your machine, and it should have pulled down. Let's look in. It should pull down a couple packages. You can actually see a list of those packages in your requirements. Pull down all these packages for you. It has SQLite. SQL Alchemy, which is kind of what you're using for your SQLite database. Flask, the Flask wrapper for that. SQL Alchemy also has Flask migrations, which will help you make changes in your database and keep track of those changes. Flask login, if you want to use user information. Pretty much everyone has some kind of user table, and this will help you keep track of authentication. So pretty much that's the main things. A lot of these come from the Flask application. There's dependencies on that. So like Jinja 2 comes with Flask. This is another one that I use, python.env, that pulls your environment variable files. So I gave you two of these. This one, .env, is one that you do not upload to GitHub. It's set up so that you can make this a Git project, I even created a git ignore file for you, and it should have .env or any kind of thing that's related to env except env.example. I personally do put env examples up, and what they are is they are the .env file without any of the values filled out, so that a developer who's working on the project with me immediately has the env file without all my passwords, but they at least know what values are needed for the project. That's just a kind of a personal workflow. It's also something I've seen in Laravel. Okay, so let's go back and see the Flask entry point, which was the run.py. We talked about that. Configuration files. Let's go look at those. So I have set up a configuration folder for you. It gets pulled in the init here. You right here in this line. You create the instance of your Flask application, and then you set the config for that Flask application from an object, which means this thing should be an object or a dictionary for us Python users, coders. So, and you see this brought in right here from config, import config. So in config, I have a variable called config. It is a dictionary. It has two keys, development and production. By all means, change this, add a testing configuration if you want. Let's just show you development. So development config is a class, and it extends the base config class, and it has two SQL alchemy variables that I've set, which is about recording queries so that you can kind of see those in your terminal, that kind of thing. In production, I did not turn that on. And then a URI for the database. And you'll have a development URI and a production URI. Typically, that's how I work. So let's look at the base config. Right now, super simple, Flask config, and then secret key. So this is saying, are we in development or production? Let's pull this up next to here. This will make a little bit more sense if we do that. So Flask config is development or production. So on your production device, you would put production here, and development, you put development. A secret, which is something that you don't ever want to share with anyone. It's used by Flask, and then the name, and there's my app name. So this is used by your terminal, I feel like, so that I don't have to keep setting this in the terminal. I put it in the .env, and then I don't have to set that in the terminal. And then here are your database URIs, and I've set up a SQLite database, and it should say things different for you. And it, like when you wrote that Flask new, it actually finds out where you are on your device and puts all this information in. And then for production, you're probably going to have like a MySQL database. I used to stray away from SQLite databases in the past and just go straight to a MySQL, because I was like, well, I'm going to have a MySQL database in production, might as well go ahead and have it in development. I've come to really like SQLite databases. simple and so easy to work with as I've worked with them. So try it out. If you don't like it, you can always convert it over to a MySQL database and go from there. All right, let's see what else the doc said that we got, and then we'll see if there's anything that I left out in the docs. So we talked about a lot. We talked about configurations so there's routes, controllers, templates, and models. So these are kind of the key components for Flask-Commands. So let me show you. I built you a kind of a starter route, built you a starter model of users in there. So the route controller and the templates, I built you kind of like a hello world example. So let's go through that. We'll go back to VS Code. All right, so collapse all this. So over here, this is really the way I just structure Flask applications. So Flask-Commands is a bit opinionated because I'm trying to provide you with a way of structuring your apps that's going to be consistent. So I had to be a little opinionated. But the opinions I made came from things I've seen over the last decade plus in web development. So they shouldn't be out of the norm here. So I have a folder called app. In the folder called app, I have, which is housing your application's files. Think of it that way. I have models. So if you're completely new to web development, models are going to represent your database structures. You'll be able to open your database and you'll see tables in there, and I think of those as the models. So right now I have a users model. If you haven't used this, TablePlus is a really cool tool to be able to view your database. I've used a couple things in the past, but I really love TablePlus. Let me just show you. We have a model. It's called users. You even have a migration, and we've already migrated users for you. So there's the migration right there. So you have the users table, and it's been migrated with these things in it. Just set this up because if you do nothing else with Flask-Commands, using Flask's new saves me personally a ton of time. So I would normally have to just do all this every single step, and it just took so much time. I was like, why is there not a command line tool for this? All right, so let me just show you TablePlus and how you would connect in the database that we currently have and see the users. So we'll just open up TablePlus. We will create a new one here. It is a SQLite, which is the nice purple Skittle. So we'll open that up, and it's called myproject. I usually name these the name of the app. It makes it easy for me. So whatever you typed in for Flask new after that, type that in here, and then you search. So select the file. So we will go in here to demos, and we will select the database. So it is called myproject dev.db. Select that. And you could test it. I often test it, especially with SQLite. I test it. I know it's going to work, so we're just going to connect. We'll save it because we might use it, and then we'll connect here. All right, so here it is. Here's users, and here's the table, which has an ID, and you can click on the table, and then you can click on the structure and see the table structure. If you click on data, you'll see the rows in the table. We have none. As we go through here, we'll put stuff in here kind of later in the series, but I just wanted to give you an intro to this. All right. If you want to see that model here, you can click the file, and let me bump this up a little bit. Okay, so we have a users class. The table name is going to be users with an S. You have an ID, and these are the columns: ID, username, password hash, created at, updated at. All right, so that was users. All right, let's look at routes, because I promised you routes, templates, and controllers. So there is a route. So this Flask application uses blueprints. All right, what does that mean? That means that if you go down into the init file where you created your Flask application, you will see a blueprint that is registered right here. So we registered the main blueprint under mains, so app routes mains. So here, this I called the main blueprint. Here's its init. It's called mains, and here it's routes. Right now it has one route, which is like the root route, and that route I just called index, and it returns MainController index. So if I go to MainController, comes from app controllers. So app controllers, here is mains controller, and it just returns this render template mains/index.html. All right, well, where's that? So mains template mains index.html says hello world. All right. If you are completely new to Flask development, I don't want to lose you, because I'm sitting here as I'm saying this thinking this is overwhelming to somebody who's brand new. So you can go back through this video again, and I want you to realize we are going to build out examples just like this. I just want you to know right now, just kind of absorb this, sit back and just kind of take all this in, and I realize you're like drinking from a fire hose right now. So just know that we're going to build each one of these steps as we do examples. I just want you to know that when you do Flask new, it comes shipped with an example so that you have something to work with, so you can mimic that in yours app. So let me just say this again, kind of, we're going to see this, and we'll work backwards. We're going to see this page in the browser. And the way that we see this page in the browser is from a controller. The controller that is providing the web application with this page is MainController. Flask comes shipped with a controller just called MainController. So, and it has a method on this class called index. It's just kind of like your hello world, and it renders the template mains index.html, which is what we just saw under the templates mains index.html. Render template, this says templates. All right. You have to hook this controller up to tell Flask what the routes are, and that's under here, under routes mains. Everything is called mains, and mains or main, and here is the route. If you wanted to change the URL, you could do that here. You type in a cool URL name, and in your browser, you would go to that. All right, so that is routes, controllers, templates. Let's see what else I talked about here in the routes, controllers, templates, and models. These things right here are really the reason I built Flask-Commands, so that you can easily wire up these things without having to build them out with a blank file. That's a little intimidating when you're first doing web development, and as you're a senior developer, you end up being kind of annoyed, at least I did, where it was like, okay, I gotta create a new basically branch over here where we're gonna do some things with a recipe, and I've got to wire up the controller, and I've got to wire up the model, and it just, in my head, it's already done, and it's taking a long time for me to put into code. So now you will end up with a one-liner in your terminal that will build all these things out for you, just like you did Flask new. And that's why we have Flask make view, Flask make controller, Flask make model. And you see them over here. All right. You have a migration all set up for you. We saw that. You have a SQLite database all set up for you. And for those of you who are on a Mac, and I apologize to those of you who are on Windows machines, you'll have to just run your Flask application kind of the traditional way. For those of you who are on a Mac operating system, you can use a run.sh script. And this is something I personally do. I haven't really seen other developers do this. I got tired of remembering all the things that I had to do to start an application up. And if it was in Laravel, it was one thing. And if it was in Flask, it was another thing. And if it was on this project, I had this thing going on. And if it was on this other project, I had these other things. So I built, in all my projects, a run.sh. And what that does is that way I can just do this, and then a whole bunch of things are going to happen. And so this is running different things in my terminal. It's also opening up VS Code, for example, and it's running the application. And so we just saw that hello world. Let me show you that run.sh file. Sorry, wrong file, run.sh. Okay, so it's opening up a shell. It actually even starts virtual environments for me. So, and it knew, like, this got built custom for you, for your machine. So it's going to say, like, my name here and the folder that I was in, but it should do this for you in your folder. But here, look, we're changing into my project that we just created, and we're activating the virtual environment. And then we're running Flask shell, which is a great place to test things in. Then we're creating another tab, and in the new tab, we're starting the Flask server. So we're seeding again into that project, and then we're activating the virtual environment, and then we're running Flask run in debug mode. Feel free to change this in whatever way you want. Feel free to add to this as your project grows. You'll be adding to this. We run so that we can create Tailwind CSS and the min files. So here I am seeding into the project again, and then running an npm run watch CSS and build CSS. And those are things that I set up for you, which you can go look at here in this. Build CSS and watch CSS. And so these are Tailwind things that you can read more about on Tailwind's website. So let's go back to that run.sh. And then here, so that was Tailwind stuff. This is VS Code. So here I'm seeding into the project and then running code dot. And if your machine doesn't know code dot, I will show you in a future tutorial how to set up code dot for VS Code, excuse me. And then it waits a few seconds just to let all those terminals kind of do their thing. And then it opens up Chrome and navigates here to this URL. And then it does something kind of really cool. You'll actually have to have fswatch installed on your machine. It watches for changes in certain folders. Feel free to add to these folders or remove from these folders. And the reason it's watching is it's going to refresh Chrome anytime files change in those folders so that you have hot reloading. Flask comes with kind of a hot reloader on the server side so that when you change code, the server itself restarts, but that doesn't restart the browser. And so I don't want to hit Command R and refresh the browser every time I make a save to a HTML template or update a controller. I just want to see it on the web page. Otherwise, I'll end up with carpal tunnel because I hit Command R so many times. So this does that for you. So, it was a lot of setup for me every time I wanted to build a Flask application. But I loved Flask because I love controlling everything. So this was my solution to being able to control everything, but not having to have a massive amount of setup. All right, I know this video is really long, and if you stayed with me for that whole video, I appreciate you even more. Hopefully you will be there for the next video where we'll kind of dive into creating a project without a database. Let's see, the goal is to not hide any files from you. You can change these, open them, read them, build them, explore more. Hopefully this was just a good intro to what came shipped. As we develop, we'll see more of these files.